Linda,
Hi, Linda.
Hey,
and Dawn.
Hi, Jen.
hi, John. Done.
And on Zoom, you probably all know each other. But I
Yep.
just will mention everybody's name. Top left corner is Lynn. Top right corner is Pam.
Mhm.
In the
Hi.
center on the left is Gabrielle. In the middle is Catherine, who's our speaker tonight.
Mhm.
We'll learn more about her.
Great.
Right is Anne Marie. The bottom left
Hi.
is Kathy.
Hello.
Bottom right is Joe
Hi.
Wagner. We want to give Catherine as much time as we have left because she has a great story to tell. It's my great pleasure to introduce and tell you that Catherine is going to be our speaker tonight, and she'll tell more about herself. Catherine, it's all yours. Take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy you're here with us today. Thank you, Dick, for inviting me to share some of my journey. And this is only a very small piece of my story, because I can only share so much in less than an hour. But I'm so happy to share what I can. I go through some overwhelm sometimes when I'm putting things together because I've tracked and journeyed my spiritual journey for almost 20 years now. And I have a lot of photographs and videos and all kinds of phenomena. But my guides help me. They pop some things in my head, and I'm always last minute working on it at the very last minute. So I'm here, I'm blessed, and I'm so happy to be with all of you. So I guess I want to start with how I opened up. Initially, I think, I had a lot of experiences as a child, and I had also been born into an NDE, which I didn't find out about until later in life, right? My guides told me because I was 2 months premature that because I was not held for the first 2 months of my life, because they thought that the babies would be injured if they picked them up when they were so premature back in the 60s. And so, I had asked my guides about that. Like, I started out my life all alone, right? And many times in my journey, I have felt very much alone, even though I know I have so much help, and I'm never alone. I know that sincerely. But so my guide showed me that I was never alone in that incubator, that I was mostly out of my body and I was with them the whole time. And that brought me a lot of joy because I just thought of, myself in that incubator, and they said, no, no, you were with us. You were out of your body and with us that whole time. So that's how I started out my life. And so through my journey, I've had all kinds of spiritual experiences, even as a young kid, where I would feel frozen when I woke up and I wouldn't be able to move. It's called sleep paralysis. But at the time I grew up in a Catholic family. They were very much pounding in about the devil and going to hell, and we're not worthy of God's love, and if you make a mistake, it's a mortal sin, and those the worst. So I had all of that in my young head, and thinking that this thing that kept me frozen in my body because I sensed a presence right next to me, and I thought it was the devil. My fear came in, and it was like, oh my God, it's the devil. That happened to me a few times as a kid. And then just I'll skip over my childhood just because it's so many things. But I had out of body experiences where I felt like I was going to die. I was being attacked, and I popped out of my body and watched from above as the abuser was beating the crap out of me. And so, I didn't even realize. I always remembered it from that view, right? From up above. And not until I started coming to the ion sharing groups and hearing more about near-death experiences and how, there's so many different types of experiences, that I realized, oh my God, I was so afraid that I was going to be killed that I watched that from above and I didn't feel any pain. So yeah, and different things in my childhood. But we'll just go to I guess it was like my early 40s. My grandpa was dying, and I was going to go see him for the last time. And he lived about 5 hours away, and he was 99. He was just shy of 99 by a couple months. And he lived at home. He had all his faculties. And so I went to see him. But the night before I went to see him, I had this dream where I walked up to this house. It was a brown house, a big brown house. I didn't recognize it. They had a brown house in the earthly realm, but not like this house. And my grandfather opened the doors and he was like, "Oh, Catherine, come on in. I'm so happy to see you." And he's like, "Come on, I want to show you something," right? So he takes me through the house and to the back doors where there are these two what do you call them? The like the big glass doors that open up, right, to the backyard. And I went in the backyard with him, and there was all these picnic tables that were lining right by the house, and there were rolling hills. It was all lined by this beautiful forest, and then there was all of these beautiful flowers and colors that I've never seen before. And all these people were walking up the hills, right? And I was sitting at the picnic table with him, and one by one, they were coming up to the picnic table, and my grandfather was like, "Oh, Catherine, this is," and I can't remember the name. Now I could see a body, but it was a body of light. It wasn't like human. It looked like this light being, but they were beaming all of this love at me. And I knew that I knew them, but I couldn't remember them, you know? But he's like, "Oh, and this is, you remember, this is," and he kept introducing me one after another after another. And they all looked like this. They were light beings, right? And just so, so happy to see me. And there was a little girl. The one that I did see was this little girl, and she had blonde ringlets. She was about 6 years old, and she was adorable. She was adorable. And he said, "Oh, and Catherine, this is," and I couldn't remember her name, right? So I went to go see my grandfather the next day, and I remember I was holding his hands. He had these beautiful long fingers, like piano fingers, and his hands were so soft. And I was just so aware, like, this is the last time I'm going to be seeing him, you know? And I was just like taking in that moment, right, of being with him for the last time and just telling him that I love him. And he said, he called me Dolly. That was his nickname for me. And he's like, "Oh, I love you too, Dolly." And he didn't say that very often. He wasn't, yeah, they were a little stoic back in those days. But he said, "Hey, Catherine, keep in touch." And that's the last thing he said to me. So through my journey, shortly after that, I started to feel like I wanted to be involved in some kind of a community with a spiritual aspect to it, but I knew I didn't want a religion because I'd gotten away from Catholicism because of all the dogma, and I didn't really want to raise my younger child in that. So I really stayed away from that. But I knew God was love. When I was a little girl, I used to cut out the prayers of my little prayer book that we would get from our CCD class. And I made my own little prayer book out of it with as close as I could get to non-dogmatic prayers, right? So I had my own little prayer book. And every time I would say those prayers, I would feel this lightness. And I would feel like Mother Mary and Jesus were with me when I would say these prayers. And they would make me feel like I'm not alone, you know? So I was always grateful that I had that upbringing, even though it came with some contrast, but it helped me to really think about it, you know, and discover for myself that that wasn't the path for me. So I went to so what happened was I started to look into spiritual communities, and I found Spiritualist Church, which I didn't even know there was any such thing. And that very day that I found that on Google, there was a couple local ones by my house. A friend of mine from out of the blue, I hadn't talked to her in a while. She had no idea what was going on with me. And she called me up and she's like, "Hey, Catherine." She goes, "I went to this place last weekend. I kept thinking of you." She goes, "It's a spiritualist church and it's not too far from us, right?" She's like, "You got to check it out." She says, "It's really cool. It's all about the golden rule. There's no dogma." She said, "And there's total equality. There's male and female ministers, right? And she said it's just all about love and personal responsibility and connecting to your spirit family, right? People that are deceased. So they believe in mediumship and being able to give messages from loved ones and healing. So I said, oh my God, I'm going to check this out. So I went the next Saturday. And when I went there, it was crowded. There was standing room only because they had these two ministers that were married. They were from Massachusetts and they were mediums too. And so everybody wanted to see them. So I was sitting all the way in the back, and she says, the lady all the way in the back with the pink shirt on, she goes, can I come to you with a message? And I said, yeah. And she goes, I have your grandfather here. And she describes my grandfather to a T. She talks about him, what he looked like when he was younger. She talks about his hands, right? His hands, and how I was holding his hand at the last moments of his life, right? And then she says, your grandfather wants me to tell you, he says, don't pray to me, right? So I was like, what? And then I realized, oh my God, he must have heard me, because the week before I had been in my backyard on my patio talking to him in my head, like saying, Grandpa, if you can hear me, you have to help me, please, with I had a child who was going through a lot of really, really difficult, challenging things, and from a very young age. And I had just been trying everything I could to get her help and get her appropriate resources. And I just kept coming against slam doors, everything I tried. And I was heartbroken, So I was just like, at this point, I'm like, just Grandpa, please, I know you're over there now and you see what's going on. You see the bigger picture. So he told, through the medium, he said, tell her, don't pray to me. So I knew he meant pray to God, go to God, right? So I was like, okay. So from then on, I started to pray to God. I would also include my grandpa, like, all right, Grandpa, my team. I knew I had a team. I didn't know who they were, though. And after that, door after door after door started to open up for my child in ways that I could never have imagined. And I was at the right place at the right time, met the right person who could unlock the door and help. It was just amazing. It just, yeah, my heart is full when I think about that. So I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, we all have help. We all have help, right? And I wanted everyone to know that we all have help. We're not alone here. And so I started to go to the Spiritualist church and sit in their circles every week and develop my mediumship, because I had been having a lot of mediumship type experiences where I'd be talking about someone who passed and boom, they're right in front of me, looking as solid as you and I. So I really wanted to develop that and be able to give messages that were loving and healing and helpful for others, like I had been helped, And so I did that, and I did that for many years in the Spiritualist church, and I was able to be part of the people that, were there, the mediums that give messages. I also did hands-on healing, and I started to become a spiritualist minister. Or I thought I was going to become a spiritualist minister. But my path kind of changed. And after about 8 or 9 years there, I ended up leaving that church because things were happening that I was not in alignment with. But my guides assured me that I was on the right path, that was part of my schooling, and that things are going to open up for me, and I'm going to be stepping into my full potential. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Right? What is that? But that was really a very amazing time in my life. When I first started to meditate in the Spiritualist church, they would take us on guided meditations, and that really helped me to control the monkey mind that was going on in my brain. And so at first, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but shortly after that, I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this. And I found it really wonderful. And the first time, like really, I would say within a couple of weeks of sitting in circle and really, really being having the intention to develop my mediumship, we started to ask to meet our spirit guides. And I saw my spirit guide's foot. I was so excited. And then little by little, I started to just ask to know more about my spirit guides and to know God. I asked to know God during a meditation one day in the Spiritualist church. And after that, I had what is known as well, there's different language for it, but for me, it happened in two segments, and I had like what's called an experience of feeling like I was reborn. So I felt like I was one with God, which is pure love. I was in total bliss and joy and peace. And I knew the answers to everything at one point, which I don't anymore. It left my brain, but I was being taken out of body. I was in the cosmos. My walls would just disappear, and I was out, and I was with my guides. And at the time, I didn't know who they were. I just knew they were with me. And I saw where the angels were coming out of the portals. I saw an opening in the heavens where there was a flame, a huge flame of love and light that was behind this interesting shaped window type thing. It wasn't really a window, it was like an opening, but it wasn't symmetrical, that I remembered. And I remember I couldn't go any further because if I went any further, I would not be able to come back. So when I talked to a friend of mine at the time, he said he thought that was the great central sun. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to look that up because I never heard that term before, and that made sense with me. Also, I heard somebody say the flames of eternity. I heard somebody say that the other day, actually, and I had never heard that term before. So I'm going to look more into that. But anyway, I was having oneness experiences with God, and I was merging in with my trees at one point. I was merged in with the ocean. I knew what it was like to be part of the ocean. I knew what it was like to be part of the trees. And I merged in with my Leland cypress trees that are here on my property. And to my surprise, they were as alive as you and I. They were such loving beings, and they were assuring me that they are here in this lifetime, in my lifetime, and they help to protect me and my property and my land. So that really made me happy. They're protectors. Then, and I just want to say this is pretty fun. Today is February 12th. And it is 18 years to the day that I had my huge Kundalini awakening. I was asking to meet my spirit guides, and I went to sleep. And in the morning, one by one, they started to introduce themselves to me. And I was in two realities at once. I was in this physical reality, and I was also in the other realm at the same time. The other realm, which is the spiritual realm, was so much more real than this reality, but I was aware of my physical body because my body was going into spontaneous yoga positions with this beautiful energy that was just permeating through every cell of my being. And I was meeting my guides. They were coming to me one after another, and showing their faces to me, one face, then another face, then another face. And they like letting me know, like, well, you've been asking, right? So I was just blown away. And then they were like, well, you're going to meet your two main guides, So there was about a dozen altogether of these different guides. And I knew many of them from different times in history or different religious figures. And one I merged in with, I didn't know who he was, but he looked like an elephant, and he was standing in front of me, and I felt his trunk, and it felt like I had a trunk, and it just like grew out of me at one point, And later on, I learned about who that was. That was Ganesh. And Ganesh is the elephant, the Hindu elephant god. And he helps us with our fears, overcoming obstacles. And so, I was so happy that he was part of that. And there was also moments where, like, it's so indescribable that I can't even put into words how everything everything was happening. But um, my body was, like I said, my body was going into spontaneous yoga positions on my bed. Then when I was off my bed, there was a light in the corner of my bedroom, and my body automatically went down on my knees, and I was bowing to the light. And like I said, there were all different guides that were coming in. It was very intense, but very loving. And I looked over at my bed, and my cat was now in the middle of doing almost cat-like yoga positions. And I know that sounds insane, but I just thought to myself, oh my God, little guy's really into this too, right? And then I just said, oh, he's been protecting my crown. He had slept above my head for the past year, literally curled above my head every single night on my pillow. So I was meant, like right at that moment, I realized, okay, he's been protecting me all these, for all these months. He knew I was going to have an awakening. At one point, I went to touch my bed, which is wooden, and all of this light just charged out of my hand. And I was like, whoa. And then I became aware that if I had any fear, everything would just stop. So I just released any fear and just stayed with it. And at one point, there was a being that started to work with me, and all the other beings, I knew who they were, but this one I didn't. But he was telepathically communicating to me for hours and hours. And yeah, there's just so much to it. I can't really go into all of it, but I found out a year later who he was, and I asked before I went to sleep, can you please show me who you were? Because I knew all the other guides and everything. And in the morning, I saw in my mind's eye, as I laid in bed, I saw this disc with windows, golden windows, right? And it was kind of coming in and out of reality. So I knew it was an interdimensional ship. And then there was a Merkaba in front of it, which is the shape of the triangle within a triangle, right? One's upside down and the other one's pointing up. And that is the sign for interdimensional travel also. And then above the disc, it said the word Metatron, right? So I had heard of Metatron, but I didn't really know who he was. I knew he was an archangel, and it made sense to me that he was there with me because he knew everything about me. He knew everything. And he was downloading all of this information, but it was like downloads. It wasn't like, technical. It was downloads of this, whatever it was that he was doing. I knew that I was to remember it. And I felt that I was going to be tested on it. And he worked with me for hours. So he is actually, he's very involved in the awakening of humanity. He is from the Old Testament, and he was one of two angels that were embodied in human form. He was, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I'm sure they'll pop it in my head as I talk. But yeah, he walked with God. He was human, and then God took him up and made him an archangel. And he's also the scribe for God. So, and he's very much involved with humanity and the ascension process. So I'm just so glad, so happy that he was part of my awakening, and I feel him still to this day. So after that, my family thought I was crazy because I was talking about my guides, and I was saying and they were with me. And I met my two main guides, who were Mother Mary and Jesus. And my body I literally, in front of them, I turned into a little child, a 2-year-old child. And so they did things with me. They showed me how much they love me, all of my guides. And I'll never, ever, ever forget those moments because they were so, so wonderful. They were preparing me for my mission here on Earth, and they didn't want to tell me too much because they didn't want to overwhelm me, because I had a big fear of public speaking. And And so they told me, you're going to be helping. You're going to be helping people that are going to be having spiritual awakenings. And they said many people are going to be waking up and we're going through something called the ascension. And I was like, well, what is that? And they said, well, everybody's going to be ascending. And I was like, well, really? I go, even my ex-husband? And they said, yes, even your ex. I'm like, well, this is big. Because sorry, but back then I was still a little angry with him. But yeah, so they said everybody, the whole planet is going to be waking up. And they said, and you're going to be helping people that are going through these awakenings because they said in your part of the world, people are oftentimes told that they're crazy. They're sent to the mental health facility. They're, told to go on medication. It's misdiagnosed. And it still goes on today where people, if they share the wrong thing with the wrong person, they can get labeled as being schizophrenic or having psychosis. So, anyway, so they didn't want, like I said, they didn't want to show me too much, but they told me a little bit, and they said that my grandfather would work with me on my nervousness for public speaking, and that it would all be okay. So, today is 18 years from when that first happened, and just really amazing that it's been 18 years already. But now things have opened up the way they said, people are getting together, we're talking about these things, people are becoming more spiritual, not religious necessarily, but more spiritual. And I mean, this stuff was really more taboo back 18 years ago, even being a medium, people were like, oh, that's crazy. But now look at it. It's exploded. It's on TV. People talk about it all the time. Everybody pretty much knows what it is. I'm not saying that there aren't people that don't, still view it the same way, but I think more and more people are really waking up, and IANs and groups like this are proof that that is definitely happening. So, yeah, so I think I'm gonna take a break and see if anybody has any questions so far.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's Pam up here.
Pam?
I didn't get the name of the angel that you said was walking on Earth right now, but actually walked with God.
Well, he came to me
Okay.
in spirit form telepathically and was
Okay.
working with me telepathically. Yeah.
Okay.
But he walked, if you look up Metatron on,
Metatron.
it's not a lot about him in the Bible. It was in the first Bible. The there's the Old Testament and the New Testament. So he's in the Old Testament, and he's only mentioned like one time, right? Yeah. Yes. Did some
Dawn has an answer. Enoch.
Enoch? Thank you. It was in my head, but I just couldn't get to it. Thank you.
And
Okay, so
he is described as a patriarch who acts as a mediator between God and humanity, sometimes called the Prince of the Presence.
Yeah.
And his lore includes being God's scribe,
Mhm.
leading Israel, and being linked to sacred geometry.
Right.
So
Metatron's
there's
cube. Yeah.
your inverted triangles.
Yeah, Metatron's cube. And that I am not a scientist, but from what I understand, that is Metatron's cube is like everything in the universe. I don't know if anyone has better language than that to describe it. Please jump in because I don't do it any justice. But yeah, he's pretty powerful. It's a pretty powerful Metatron's cube. So what
thank
happened?
you.
You're welcome. So yeah, so I what do I want to talk about next? So shortly after I started to learn to meditate, I started to see in my meditations different beings. And the first being that I saw that was not an angel or an earthly being was I saw a feline being. And I knew that it wasn't a cat because it had a robe. It wore a long robe and it had feline features. And I just thought, oh my God, that's interesting. And so I talked to a friend of mine who was a contactee at that time, or he was a friend of mine at that time. He was a contactee. And I just said, yeah, I saw this feline being. And he was like, oh yeah, the feline beings, I've seen them. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and then over time, after I left the spiritualist church, I started to, oh my God, this is another big story that's way too long to tell, but it really has something to do with my cat who died and I had a shared death experience with. And he lived on my porch for many years. He was a stray. Somebody just left him. And he ended up walking up our porch the day of the blizzard many years ago. So we named him Blizzard, even though he was jet black. And he had a little white spot on his chest. But he was the mayor. He loved everybody, everybody. But he absolutely insisted on being an outdoor boy. And when he got very sick, he got heart disease and started to, or kidney disease, and started to not do well. And he got very thin and very small. He was already a small cat. And the pit bull from two houses down got out of the yard one day and came over, and he was sleeping under my tree right in front of his porch, because that's where he lived, on my porch. I had a little heated house for him and everything out there. And the pit bull got hold of him in his mouth. And I was in the bathroom, heard my daughter screaming, came out. We rushed him to the vet, and we found out he had all these internal injuries. So he started going to my friends who were mediums and telling them, tell her I'm okay. Tell her to let me go. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. But meanwhile, I was just so distraught, because he was my little baby. And I had to put him down. And when I put him down, I felt him go through my heart, and I could feel how much he loved me. And I couldn't believe how much love this cat had for me. It was, I'm not going to say it was as close to how much God loved me, because that's infinite, but it was the closest thing that I've never felt that much love, besides when I was having the oneness experiences with God. He adores me. He adored me. And when I got home from the vet, me and my daughter went, and we had to do that together. And I was exhausted, because it had been a couple days of this, trying to help him and wondering if he was going to make it. And then I laid on my bed and I closed my eyes. And as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw him. And he was up in heaven, and he was like, Mommy, look at me. I'm climbing trees. I could see him climbing up and down the trees. And he's like, I'm here. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I'm not in any pain. He was talking to me, right? And he had a little voice. It was like a high-pitched voice, which I would never expect from a little black cat, right? I thought he would be a little more rugged, but he had this little high voice, and he talked really fast. And he was just so excited to be showing me that he was up in heaven with my grandparents. He jumped in my grandparents' arms. He showed me all my pets that were over there. And I was like, thank you so much. Oh, I love you. I love you. And then I went to sleep. And then in the morning, as I was waking up, my eyes were still closed, and he showed himself to me again. He was on my porch, sitting on the chair. And he's like, Mommy, I'm still here. He goes, I'm not leaving, right? And he goes, I'm always going to be your boy. And he goes, Mommy, I want you to go down to the crystal shop, right? So first I apologized to him, because I said, I'm really sorry that your dad, meaning my ex-husband, would not go to the vet with me when you got so injured. And you know what he said to me? He goes, oh, Mommy, he's a baby. You know that. He's not like us. We're protectors. That's what he said to me, right? So I was like, okay. So he tells me, go down to the crystal shop and get this candle. And he shows me this little green candle, a light, bright green candle, right? And I knew exactly where he wanted me to go. There's this little crystal shop in Port Jeff. So I said, all right, I'm going to do that. So that day I got up, I went down Port, I went to the little crystal shop. And as me and my daughter are in there, this candle falls on my foot, and it's a green cat, and it's about this tall, and it's green, right? So now I'm like, oh my God, look at this. I said, look at this, Em. I go, this fell on my foot. I said, do you think this is a sign from Blizzy? And she's like, yeah. I go, you think I should get it? Yeah, okay. So then I turn around again, and I see all these little Reiki candles, and one of them is a little green Reiki candle, the same exact candle he showed me, and it has a prayer of abundance attached to it, a little prayer that you take with you. So I was like, oh, okay, Blizzy wants me to work on abundance, right? So I bought a couple of the little green candles. I bought the little cat candle. I took them home, and magically, I had just set up this bookshelf that now is almost becoming like an altar, which I didn't do intentionally, but I had been like collecting these different things, like this crystal and this little piece of paper with manifestation points on it, like 7 points for manifestation. So I put the little crystal in the center, and I lit the candle, and I would say the prayer of abundance. And let me tell you, shortly after that, I started to get like feel compelled to go outside and take pictures in my yard. And so I did. I went outside and I took pictures in my yard at like 12 at midnight. I had started to channel a collective at that point. That was in 2016. And I didn't know at the time who they were. I knew they were part of my higher self and part of my team. But these energies were coming in when I would channel, and they were very powerful and loving energies of like a higher wisdom that would come through me. And I would have to record it because I am a trance channel when I channel them in that way. So I would listen to it when, I was done, and that then, I would realize, okay, they're here to help me, and help me with my journey, and they're here to help me get over my fears and all of the things that are going on in my life so that I can do my mission and do what I'm here to do. So anyway, I went outside and I took 4 pictures on my patio. I stood on my patio from left to right, boom, 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 and 1 video from left to right. And I went inside. It was like 12:30 at night, and I was so charged up because I had this energy that was coming through me from these beings was so high that I felt like my heart was just buzzing. And I looked at the photos, and I saw all of this phenomena in it. And so some of the phenomena that I saw was like a tube that was floating in my yard. And I'm aware of the time, so I'm just looking. Another one was there was like a column of light that was coming down, and out of that column of light in the video, this little thing just like popped out, and I could see it go by really fast. And then I would slow down the video to look at it kind of frame by frame, and it looked like a little golden disc. And it just went by so fast that if I didn't slow it down to look at it, I would have missed it. Above that disc, in one little frame of the picture of the video, there's this thing that pops up, and it is a green orb, right? And so I screenshotted it. And at the time I was going for acupuncture. So I'm laying on the table and I'm talking to my guides in my head, and I'm like, what was that disc that came out of that, column of light? And they go, that was us. Did you like that? I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing. And they go, what was that green orb that was above it? And they said, that was that. They go, there's a white feline being in that orb. And I said, no way. And they go, yeah, go home and pull it up on your phone, enlarge it, and you'll see the face. So prior to that, a white feline being had morphed out of my ceiling when I was waking up one morning. So I was having all of this contact with these beings of love, all different types of felines, not just cat looking, lion beings, and I was seeing black panthers and just every kind of feline that you can imagine. So when I got home, I went into I went in my house, I pulled up I enlarged the picture, and there it was. I could see the face was kind of turned a little bit, and you could see the eyes and the nose and the mouth, and then like the white chest. And I remember running into the laundry room and just going, "Oh my God." So my ex-husband, I'm like, "Oh my God, look at this, the white feeling penis in the," and he was just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, and I looked at my phone, it was 111, right? So that's another thing that comes in, is the synchronicities around numbers. So so yeah, they were just doing all kinds of fun synchronistic things with me, and I was able to track a lot of it with pictures and videos and things like that that I've saved over the years. So so I'm going to show a couple of pictures since I have some things here, and like I said, I have to stop there just because it's too much. It's too much. My head's going to explode. All right, hold on. Let me see if I can get the picture. Do I have time, Dick, to share a couple of things? Yeah? All right. Okay. All right. So let me just pull this. Oh, okay. I'm going to tell you about this. So I run a bunch of groups, and one of them is, can you guys see that okay? Yeah? Okay. So one of them is UFO ET experiencers, and I've been running that group since 2016. And it started at my local library. And then when COVID happened, it shut down. And then I jumped on Zoom, and now I have it on Zoom. It's the second Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock. And I get people from all over the world. It's really nice, where we can come and talk about all these kind of things without worrying about anybody wanting to commit us. And it's really a lot of fun. And, you know, my guys are very positive. I have not been abducted. Anytime I've been out of my body and with them, I never felt like I was forced to go anywhere. I've been free and happy and part of it's all been joyful. So, all right. So we had a guy that was wanting to find out about Three Eye Atlas, and he was from the New York Post. And he contacted me on Meetup, and he said, "Oh, do you know anyone that has any information about Three Eye Atlas?" And I said, "Oh yeah, we have our, sharing group, and a lot of people are getting in touch with Three Eye Atlas, and they feel like they have an understanding about what it is. And if you want to come to the group, you're welcome to come." So he did. He joined our sharing group, which is a lot of fun. And then he wrote up an article about our group, and that was in November. So the funny thing is, he goes, "Oh, I'm going to have the photographer come and do a headshot, right?" I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "No, they're going to come out and they're going to take pictures of you, right?" So now where I am, I'm standing in the middle of my medicine wheel. I built a medicine wheel on my property because I have a portal here. And so I'm in the center of my medicine wheel, and the guy took 100 pictures of me. I swear he was there for an hour taking nonstop pictures. I felt so weird, I've never had to do anything like that before. But I'm going to show you what appeared in the picture, okay? There's several things here. I'm going to enlarge it. Hopefully it'll enlarge. How do I enlarge? Oh, here we go. Okay, so now if you look right here, there's like this white, you see that white kind of like, looks almost like an orb.
Like a halo.
Yeah, there are two lion beings in that. Okay. Now watch, because they blend into each other. And that's what happens with these pictures of interdimensional beings. They will sometimes share an eye, or they'll share a mouth. In this particular picture, they're sharing a nose and a mouth. There's two of them. There's a larger one and there's a smaller one. So I'm going to show you the larger one first. And this is his face, okay? It goes up like this, right? It goes all around here. Uh-oh. What's that? Okay. I'm trying to do an arrow. Okay. Here's his eye. Here's his other eye. This is the lion's nose. It has that little slit. There's the little slit, and here's his mouth. Can you see that?
No, kind of.
Here's his eye, here's his other eye, here's his nose and his mouth. You gotta kind of soften your eyes a little bit, like soften your gaze. Don't try too hard. Just kind of soften your gaze a little. Find his eyes first. He's a big one. He's a big one, okay? His eyes are set back, and then his nose comes down, and then you can see the mouth here, all right? Now, when you're done finding him, there's a smaller one. Here's his eye, here's his other eye, and then here's his nose, the same nose. Here's the little slit that comes down, and then here's his mouth right here. So there's two of them. There's one here. There's the little guy. You just see the face. You don't really see the mane. And then here's the big one. Here's the big one's face right here. This is the shape of his face. All
Did
right.
anybody see that?
And then it comes down.
I just saw
You
that.
can see it, yeah.
You see it now? Yeah, it can leave you, but once you see it, you can see it again. You just have to find the eyes first, then the nose and the mouth. But those are my lion beings, and they are part of my higher self team. Very, very much a part of who I am. I was a lion being in another lifetime. They helped me to pre-plan my life before I came here. They were with me and Mother Mary as I was planning my life, and they tried to make me laugh as Mother Mary was trying to talk me out of putting too much on my plate. And they made me laugh because that's what they do. They're joyous and they're loving. And I've seen them so many times. They come to me in the mornings when I'm waking up. I see them in my mind's eye, and so many other times. And now I'll show you something else that appeared. Right here is a little green orb, okay? And then there's another orb right here. Now the green is very, for me, I call it blizzy green because it's the same color as the candle that he got me to get. And all of these green lights were showing up in my trees right shortly after that. And they were actually UFOs, and there was all kinds of faces and different ones and stuff. So then if you go down here, you see the other green orb here on my pants?
Yep.
Pretty big. Okay, so now my friend showed me that. She's like, look, there's a tiny little ET. It looks like the one with the almond eyes down here. I think it's right here. It's got big eyes and a little mouth. But then I saw another one who has, like, you can see half the face. Like my leg is like splitting his head in half, and then here's his head, and he has his eye closed. Right? And it looks like he's smiling. Okay. So yeah, so there's phenomena that happen in that one picture that the guy chose out of probably 100 pictures. So I know they were working with him to make sure that he chose that particular picture. That was a lot of fun to see that. And let's see. You have more time, Dick, or should I?
Yeah, continue, please.
So I'm just going to go through. This is the disc that I saw that said Metatron. That's what I was seeing. I drew that. I drew this. This is my little prayer book from when I was a little girl. I still have that. And let's see. This is the disc that was floating in my yard the night I wanted to take some pictures. And then this is some of the phenomena that I was seeing out there. You see the orbs?
Yeah.
This is the feline, the golden disc that came out of the column of light. And here's the green orb that was above it. And there's eyes. I mean, this picture is kind of hard to see, but I can see it still. Here's an eye. Here's another eye. Here's the nose. Now. And then the chest comes down here. His head is kind of slanted a little bit.
Will you tell the story of the tree and the healing?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to get to that. All right. So let's see. Where is it? Okay. So when I was outside one day, actually I was inside, and all right, I'm gonna close that up. I'll bring it back in a minute. So I'm outside, and I I'm very aware that I hear this grumbling noise. And I'm like, what is going on? And I hear all this noise and everything. And I see this truck, right? And they're taking down trees next door. And I love my trees, you know? So I go outside and I see what they're doing over there. And I'm like, oh my God, they're taking down more trees, right? And I'm just standing there and I'm like, they're not touching my trees. So the guy sees me and he walks over. He's like, oh, he goes, he goes, he goes, he goes, do you want me to take your tree down? And I said, no. And he goes, what about those Leland cypress trees? You want me to trim them? And I said, how much? And then he told me, and I said, no, thank you. And then he goes, oh, okay. And then he says, well, he goes, here, take my card if you ever want to hire me, right? And I said, no, I don't need your card. You know, I won't be doing that. I love my trees, right? As a matter of fact, I wish I had more of them. He walked away, and I turned around and I started to walk towards my house, and I heard, thank you, right, in my head. And I turned around and I looked at the tree, and as I zeroed in on the tree, I see there's a heart right there, right? And I heard the tree said to me, you know, if you ever need a healing, you can come and sit down underneath me and I'll give you a healing. And I said, oh my God, thank you. And the tree said, no, thank you. Right? So that was on a Valentine's weekend. Literally, I'm not kidding you. There was so much going on with hearts and everything that weekend. It was so simple. And I kept feeling all of this healing that was going on, you know, when I would sleep in my bed, and I felt like the trunks or the trees' roots were coming under my house and healing me. And let's see, I have another one here. This one happened not too long ago, where I had changed my picture on my phone. This happened in September, actually. I changed my picture on my phone because I raised butterflies, and that time of year is when they hatch, a lot of them. And I was sad because there were no butterflies this year, because a lot of the people are still using the chemicals on their lawns, and that kills them, you know. So I changed my contacts on my phone to this picture because I loved this picture. It was from a few years back, where the butterflies, when they first hatch, they're very friendly. So this one landed in my hair. Now that morning, I woke up, I had such a bad headache. It was like one of the worst headaches I ever had. And it was right in the back of my head. All right. And I go outside to get my mail. And then I realize, I'm like, yo, wait, I'm going to go see if maybe the tree can help me, you know? So I walk over to the tree because I remembered it was a healing tree, right? And I put my hands on the tree and I just said, can you please heal my headache? I said, just take it down into the earth. You don't have to hold on to it. Bring it down into your roots and just release it into Mother Earth, and she'll take care of it. And then I just stood there for about 20 seconds, 30 seconds tops, and my headache was totally gone. So now I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you, right? And I took a step back and I looked at the tree, and I couldn't believe what I saw. On the tree, there was a Sasquatch being, right? Now, these Sasquatch beings started introducing themselves to me in 2016 and 2017, and they've been part of my story, part of my journey. And sorry about that. So I don't know how to make that stop. Hold on a minute. Okay. So I looked at the tree and I could see his head right here. It's like a big oblong head. And then it comes down like this. And here's his mouth. He's smiling. Here's his nose. And then here's his eye and his other eye, right? And now here's his shoulder. He's a big one. And his arm goes all the way down here. You kind of see his chest here, right? And then here's a little bit of his other shoulder, and his arm kind of comes down here. And then I noticed he has a butterfly on his shoulder, right? And I was like, oh my God, it's like it's like a mirror reflection of my butterfly that I had just put on my on my contacts that morning. So it was their way of kind of being magical because they are magical. And I stepped back and I looked at the tree and I just heard them say, yeah, we leave imprints on the trees. Where these are portals, the trees are portals. And so they use the trees to go to different places and to travel interdimensionally. So this tree that's on my property is part of their portal system. And so I was really, really excited to find that and to to find out more about them, that they could actually leave imprints on the trees. And so he's actually much larger. He's like as big as my head, like on the tree, he's like as big as my head. But they come through in other ways too, like on the bathroom rug. I don't know if you can see this guy. This is like one of those, he's got big eyes, big head, and this is like an ET being. He looks like he's smiling here. Here's his mouth and his nose. But this happens to me a lot too, where they show up on my rug, in my bathroom. And I'll just show you a quick thing. This showed up this is my medicine wheel here that's in my backyard. And I put statues to represent different guides and different experiences that I've had. So, but this to me kind of looks like an interdimensional ship that showed up in the picture in the camera. So I use that for my safe space sharing group meetup now. And then this was, I'll show you quick. This was me and Dolores Cannon in 2014, and she was my mentor. She taught QHHT when she was alive, and now her daughter teaches it, but I was in the second to last class that she ever taught. And she's actually my mom in a past life. And she's proved it to me through, I won't go into the story now, but she proved it to me. I have pictures of it, and it's like pretty mind-blowing. It has to do with the felines too. So, but yeah, she's a wonderful woman. And just one more thing too. I have started a new group called How Can I Help Be the Change? And this is on the first Saturdays of the month. And that's at 8 o'clock Eastern, if anybody would like to join us. And I also have a couple other groups. I know Dick has some of his groups on Tuesdays. I also have mine on Tuesdays. So, but these are two of them, UFO ET experiencers. And then we have spiritual experiencers, which this is also my medicine wheel. And this is the column of light that showed up one day. And in there is that's my interdimensional craft. It's a triangle that's pink and purple. And it literally showed up in that column of light. So I love that. And there's also some faces in there too, in the column.
Comments.
Anyway, so that's my quick version of my story. I hope you enjoyed it.
I have a comment. That was good.
Yeah, we want to open the floor for comments, and we'll start with Linda.
When you were talking about the cat being, I was thinking the Sphinx.
Oh, the Sphinx. Yes, because there's a history of them, the feline beings, being part of the earth. Like they were here. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many different ones. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name right now. My brain is freezing, but yeah, if you look into the pyramids and the history and the hieroglyphs, there's a lot of them. Crazy beings that are there. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Or anybody on Zoom have a question or a comment? All right, Tom has his hand up.
I was kind of curious. It's a really basic question. What's the word dogma mean?
Well, the way I understand dogma, it's kind of like fear, pounding fear into people, like you're going to go to hell. You're not worthy. God doesn't love you. You're not worthy enough to go with God because you're not this certain religion. Yeah, that's dogma.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a question.
Yes.
What is your website and to that group that you have?
Oh, the website is you can go to my bit.ly. I can
I sent it out to everybody. You already have it in
Okay.
your email.
If you click on that, it'll bring up all of the different groups that I have. And then there's like a place where you can click for each of the groups. It'll show you like an explanation for the group, and then you can sign up. And you have to register for the Zoom groups.
I
Okay.
sent that to everybody in the email, for all the groups.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
There was
each
three.
thing. Thank you. Thank you. It makes it easy for you.
There was three of them.
Anybody else? Did Gabriel have a question? Gabriella, no?
Thank you.
Any last questions or comments? Well, we want to thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Your experience is out of this world.
This world, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Right.
Really interesting.
When you edit the video, would you make it available to us? I'd like to put it on our website.
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely. All right, guys.